Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Zara. Zara, how are you?
Good, Jordan. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to do these two episodes because we're doing part 1, part 2 of Google Ads. So today's just going to be a 101. Is it right for your business? When scaling a business, it's super important to be able to generate leads. And look, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, Google Ads is really important for the service-based business side of things. And I'm sure it is for e-com too. But it can really take your service-based business to the next level if it's done properly.
Yes, agreed.
Now, it's a tricky one because it can be expensive. I think it's really good. What we're going to run through today is really good. It'll give people a really good foundation of what Google Ads is and how it works. I think where a lot of people get stuck is they don't understand that a lead cost if you're a service-based business and it costs you $200 a lead, it's not $200 a sale. It could, if your close rate, say 33%, you'll need 3 of those leads in order to close a deal. So it's really important that you understand the metrics of what you're investing your money into.
Absolutely.
Do you want to touch on Google Ads as a platform and what it is for those listeners that aren't familiar?
Yeah, so Google Ads is a paid advertising platform. So liken it to Facebook ads, TikTok advertising, Pinterest advertising, those kinds of things. YouTube ads kind of fall into the Google Ads category as well. But so Google Ads it's a search engine, and essentially you can pay Google a fee to show your products and to bring your business up onto the first page. So at a very basic high level, that's kind of an explanation. There's obviously so much in it, and there's so much information involved, and it gets quite deep, and it can be confusing sometimes and overwhelming to understand. But it is a really important platform. It's just, I think you touched on it exactly, is actually understanding how to use it and making sure that you've done your research in advance to understand whether you're going to actually make money off the platform.
Why do you think it's so important to have a basic understanding before you dive in and start your Google Ads, whether it's yourself or through an agency?
I think like anything, if you're going to engage in a platform, if you're going to engage services from somebody else, you kind of need to understand the absolute basics, because you want to be able to have a conversation with someone. You want to know what they're talking about. And I think the worst thing, and something that can happen, I think, with Google Ads, but also with SEO, is that people or agencies or freelancers kind of can pull the wool over your eyes a little bit.
You said it. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and they can kind of confuse you in jargon and metrics and language that, doesn't need to be confusing.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite often when agencies get a bad rep, it's because they
deserve it
lean
sometimes.
into that. Yeah, and they kind of lean into it. They lean into the lack of understanding.
Yeah.
That customers or clients might have.
Yep.
And then, so it means that they can kind of sneakily get away with maybe reporting on vanity metrics, which are metrics that don't really matter and they're not actually impacting your business, but they look great and they sound great. And so I think, like with anything in business, in order to actually have an intelligent conversation with whoever you've engaged to do that work, you need to kind of understand the basics. What metrics make sense? Are we talking about, cost per click, exactly what you just said. When someone says, "Oh, we've got a bunch of leads in, and it's only cost $100 a lead." Well, yeah, but it's a lead; it's not a sale.
Yeah. And
so then you need to be able to say, "Okay, well, cool. My conversion rate as a business owner or in my sales team is 20% or 15% or 30% or whatever it is. How many do I need? How many am I going to close? And then what is that actual cost per acquisition of that client?" And that's sometimes what you will find agencies don't do, is they don't go that far to understand what the return on investment is. They just go, "Okay, well, I've run the ads on the platform. I'm going to report on my return on advertising."
Yeah. It's so important. And we're going to touch on the metrics or the things that you need to have some type of baseline understanding of.
Yes.
But again, to double down on what you said, and I've seen it before with myself and with clients, and you've heard it, or everyone's heard it around the traps with those nightmare stories of agency land where exactly what you said, it's so good, it's so busy, we're getting heaps of calls. Okay, cool. Are they relevant? Is there no, are you getting a return? At the end of the day, are you making money? Are you getting some type of return on your ad spend? It's just so important to stay on top of it, because at the end of the day, you're the business owner and the buck stops with you. So that's why I'm a firm believer in again, what you said is having some type of baseline understanding.
Yep.
And I'm not saying to like know the ins and outs and negative keywords and how to do it and track all of that stuff, but be able to have a two-way conversation. So when you are having those monthly catch-ups, it's not just a one-way street and you're not just sitting there going, nodding and going, okay, cool. You want to make sure you can ask those questions and refine, because at the end of the day, if you can give as much feedback as possible to the agency or the person you're using, you're going to get better results.
Absolutely.
So you want to be able to have that two-way chat all the time.
Yeah, it definitely, the agency relationship or freelance relationship, obviously we're just using the word agency in this scenario, but
yes,
agency, freelancer, whatever, that relationship needs to be a two-way relationship. You need to be able to have a conversation because you need to understand what you're paying for.
Yeah, correct.
So, and it's only, like you said, it is only going to make the results better, because if someone if your agency is running your Google ads for you and they're reporting and they're saying, hey, we've got like 25 calls in the last 10 days, whoa, amazing. And then you go, yeah, but half of them were calling for the wrong company. Half of them weren't actually interested in my services. Half of them were time wasters. The quality was low. There was, of that 25, only 3 of them were actually interested in us as a business and willing to pay the price or whatever it might be. And then you go, okay, well, hold on a sec. Now we need to, but if you're not feeding that information to the person that's running your ads, then they don't know that.
Yeah, for sure. Are there types of software, or is there software that people can use to help with the overall research or to get a better understanding?
Yeah, loads. There's heaps of software out there. There's paid software, there's free software. I mean, the free ones, which maybe I'll touch on first, is like Google Keyword Planner and Google Trends. So your Google Keyword Planner, it's a free kind of tool in your Google Ads account. And essentially it's designed to help you find new or discover new keywords relevant to your business or your service or your product that you're selling. And essentially you can drop something in there. You could drop your landing page, your website URL, you could put your product in there or your service, say you're a plumber, and it can help you to say, okay, well, this is on average, it's an estimate.
Yep. Are they generally close, those estimates?
Yeah. Somewhat.
Because it gives you a range, right?
It gives you a range. So it could, if you're looking for like, say, plumber near me, it could, and you've got a specific region. Expensive industry. But one of the things you can do is you can choose, say you only operate in a certain area. So you only operate in Melbourne, or you only operate in Sydney or Brisbane or whatever. The standard, settings is it will have it set to Australia. And so you just obviously want to change that targeting region. But essentially it gives you an estimate of how often people are searching for those keywords that you've dropped in there. It's connected directly to Google Ads. It's part of the Google Ads platform, so it's relatively reliable, and it'll give you a range. It could say, 1,000 to 2,000 searches per month, on average. But yeah, it helps to give you an idea of what keywords you could be dropping into your campaigns. The other thing is it can help you to estimate or like understand what your cost per clicks are going to be. So it'll give you like a top of the range bid of like, in this situation, the most expensive that it's going to cost is this. But at the lowest range, it could cost this. So you can say, okay, well, say as a business, you've done your budgeting, you go, I've only got $500 a month to spend on Google Ads. That's my budget. That's my marketing budget. But then you look at the keyword planner, for example, and you can see, okay, well, it costs me $25 to get somebody to visit the website because it's a really competitive industry. Maybe it costs $100, whatever that looks like. Then you can kind of analyze that, and you can say, okay, well, 500 divided by this over 30 days, this is how much I'm looking. Okay, so maybe I'm not going to get a return because my sales team's quite small, or, I can't get back to people straight away, or whatever it is. But it can help you to say, okay, well, maybe it's not the right time for my business to engage in this platform.
I think it's really important that we highlight what you just said. If your budget is $500 a day, or sorry, $500 a month.
A month, yeah.
And if your average lead cost is, say, $200, you need to consider, and to be honest, if you're using a professional, whether again freelancer, agency, they should tell you it's not worth doing.
Absolutely, they should. They absolutely should.
Every industry is different.
Yes,
but it happens all the time where you'll just take the retainer fees, the $500 a month on that example, and you're not going to get a return. Because once you take into account like your lead cost, if you factor in the retainer, if your budget's $500, you're paying more in the retainer. So it's just so important that you have a baseline understanding so you can go in there and check.
Yeah. And so when you're saying like if a lead cost is $200 and you've got a $500 budget, the best case scenario, you could probably get 3 leads a month.
Yeah.
So, you have to be super confident that you can convert those 3 leads. You also need to be super confident in like your sales team, and then factoring in the marketing, like the advertising cost of the agency, like the servicing costs, for example. And that could be $2,000.
Exactly.
So at that point, you've spent $2,500 for the month. You've generated 3 leads.
Quick maths. That's how much it's costing you a lead, $833.
Yeah. So you need to either have a really expensive product or service. But then also that's just factoring in the lead cost. So say you convert all of those leads at $830, then you have to, if you're in the service, which is unlikely, you then have to send people out to do the job. So then you've got, wages, you've got time costs, you've got product costs. That hasn't been factored in yet.
Yeah.
So then once you kind of do all of that and you go, okay, maybe, I'm not going to make any money
Exactly.
now.
And that 30% conversion rate that I used before, that means in order to get a sale, it's costing you $2,500. If your conversion rate is 33%, and you're getting 3 leads a month, on that example we're using, it's costing you $2,500 to get 1 sale. If that sale's worth $400, you're in the red.
Yeah.
You're in the red.
It's not the right decision.
It's just, if there's one thing I want people to take away from this episode, it's just to really understand that baseline understanding is non-negotiable. And if you're working with someone that's really good, they will pull the pin on that example before it starts.
Before it starts, before they take any money from you, because part of you coming on board is they should go away and be like, okay, cool, does this make sense?
Yeah, correct.
As an example, we had a prospective client that came to us with the service and said, this is what I want to do. I want to get more leads. This is the industry that I'm in. These are the areas I operate. And we looked into it and we were like, the search volume's too low. People aren't searching for this often enough for it to be worth it financially for you. We need to look at another marketing avenue. But so that's like Keyword Planner is really handy there. The other one that I mentioned earlier as a free tool was Google Trends, which is again a free like web-based tool or software, and it shows you it shows you how popular search terms are over a period of time.
Right.
So it helps you to understand if something's increasing in popularity, if something's decreasing in popularity, and it can show you how that changes, how those trends change. So you could say like over, you wouldn't necessarily do days or weeks. You would probably do months. I mean, unless it was like a flash sale or something like that, but you probably wouldn't be engaging in it that way. But you can look over a 6-month period. Has this particular trend, product, service, keyword, query, is this increasing or decreasing? So it can help you identify like long-term trends. So, we can see that over the last 6 to 12 months, this particular area is increasing in interest. So it's probably something I want to get on board. But say you look at that information and you can see over that period of 6 months, it's actually started to decline. It's probably going to continue to decline. So it's not worth wasting your money. But it can help you like understand like seasonal fluctuations in search volume as well, and popularity. So for example, if you sell like, outdoor furniture or whatever, or winter coats, obviously coming into winter, it's that kind of search query and that trend's going to increase. But it can help you to say, okay, well, what's coming? What's a potential area? What's an opportunity that my business could tap into if you have a product or a service that meets those needs and those demands? But it can help you kind of say, okay, well, this is a growing niche, or this is, a growing area that I can tap into. So it doesn't show you exact search volumes. I think that's the difference. It doesn't show you search volumes. It shows you relative popularity for that area or for that service.
Yeah, okay. So that's Google Trends.
Google
and then
Trends.
We've also got some paid platforms too.
So we have paid platforms. So SEMrush is probably the most common, and there's a bunch out there. There is a free version of it. The paid version is wildly better.
Yep.
But essentially it combines a whole bunch of information into one platform, and it gives you information into like keyword research. I think the competitors thing is probably a really key one with SEMrush, and how that can tap into your SEO. So really understanding kind of what your competitors are bidding on. You can kind of see where they're sending their traffic, which you can use it to like analyze landing pages. And then I think the other thing which you can do is set up alerts. So you can receive notifications when someone makes changes to their campaign. So then you can see, and again, maybe if you're combining all of these tools, you could get a notification to say, oh, this competitor has changed their ad campaign, and this is sort of what they're focusing on now. And then you can go and have a look at Google Trends, because maybe you haven't looked at Google Trends recently, and you can say, oh, okay, I can see that there's an increase or a decrease in this particular area. Well, my competitor's onto something here, or my competitor's not onto something here. And here's a way that I can tap into that and get ahead. So I guess all of these tools, and there's so many out there, but I guess they're probably the three most common, or the three that we've spoken about on the podcast a few times. But they're, I guess, just go back into, like we always talk about, is like data-driven decisions as well. So if you're thinking about paid advertising, if you're thinking about Google Ads, do your research and understand, are you actually going to make money off this platform? There's a bunch of agencies out there and freelancers that'll probably do like a Google Ads audit for you, or just to understand if it's a viable platform for you. But yeah, so understand, can you make money? Is it a good financial decision? And then where you can make money and where you can kind of, set yourself apart from your competitors. Because like we said, that the plumbing industry is so expensive, but maybe there's areas in the plumbing industry that you can kind of tap into that some of those competitors aren't tapping into, there's still a high search volume, there's still an increase in like search popularity, but it's not as expensive, it's not as competitive.
Yeah. On that, we've spoken about plumbers a couple of times, but what type of businesses thrive using Google Ads?
Yeah, so there's a few different businesses that work. Obviously, we talk about like e-commerce service-based businesses, but the way I typically talk about Google Ads versus like Facebook or Meta Ads, for example, is like Google Ads is like people are aware of what they need. So it's not necessarily creating a desire in somebody, which Meta Ads is more so like showcasing a product and trying to convince people that they need something. It's kind of, once you shift into Google, that purchase intent is much higher. So it's you need a plumber, you need a new pair of shoes, it's coming to winter, you don't have a jacket, so you're kind of much closer to a purchase decision. So I would say like high purchase intent businesses, products, services, you could be talking about, obviously like e-com is an example, service-based in terms of like plumbers, electricians, something's broken at home, you need it fixed, right? Yeah. So that's, you kind of go to the Google platform for that. Location-based businesses, so restaurants, cafes, those sorts of things, dentists, our allied health professionals, that works really well. I think the other thing to focus on is, as a business, you want to have trackable, like a way to track your conversions. So, if it's e-com, you've got an online store and you're seeing how many sales are coming through, whether it's you've got specific landing pages for your Google Ads platforms, maybe you're in the service-based industry, location-based kind of specific, you could have a different landing page for each of those locations. And that landing page is only accessible through the Google Ads platform.
Yeah, okay.
So
easier to track as well?
Easier to track, yeah. So typically when we work with clients, we will set up landing pages. So for example, we're working with an electrician at the moment, and there's a few, like they work in like EV chargers, they do fan installations, all these sorts of things, rather than sending people to one website with all of the information on, because that can be overwhelming, analysis paralysis kind of thing. You get to a point you're like, I don't even know what I need here. You have an ad specifically created ad copy written for EV chargers, you send them to that destination, that landing page that's been created specifically for EV chargers, and they can't kind of click anywhere off that landing page. So the conversion rate's typically much higher.
Yep.
So I think, being able to track things is obviously super important.
So on that note, would you say that if you are going to do Google Ads and you're a service-based business, having a landing page is a non-negotiable?
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do them.
Well, don't do them. You can definitely try it. We've worked with businesses that don't have landing pages, and you just send people directly to a website, and it still works. It just depends how well your website is set up and optimized to convert. If you've whacked together your website or it hasn't been updated in like 5 years, there's probably things on there that need to be changed, and it might not be showcasing your business in the best way possible.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just about being like super clear. I think that's probably the other part, is like having a very clear value proposition. And if you're sending people to a website, that is really effectively communicated, which if you're sending people to a landing page, there's really only one thing that you're communicating, which is that particular service and that unique selling point. So yeah, I think they're probably, to go back over those, like a high purchase intent business, something that you can track location-based businesses, and then having a clear value proposition.
Yeah. I know we've spoken about SEMrush and how like that can be used for SEO. When do we know it's the right time to, like if we are doing SEO, or even if we're not, if we're doing nothing, how do we know when the right time is to move into paid advertising and specifically Google Ads?
So I think going back to that financial component, like having the budget for it. So potentially you've tried other avenues, like you've tried your organic, you've tapped into that, it's working well, it's, you know, thriving, you're getting good results through your organic efforts, like your organic marketing efforts. Then you could say, okay, well, you know, if we're going to look at paid advertising, what platform makes the most sense? We look at Meta, we look at Google Ads, all of these other ones. We say, okay, well, Google Ads makes more sense because of the aforelisted reasons. And then we go, okay, well, now we know what our budget is. We know how much we can afford to spend. We've kind of dropped that into our like cash flow spreadsheet or our P&L, and we can see, okay, this is how it's going to impact my bottom line. I can afford to potentially not get anything from this for 30 days and it not to bottom out my business.
And is that important? To be that, like when that learning phase is happening, you need to be comfortable to run at a bit of a loss?
I think the thing that sometimes people expect with paid advertising is it's like you go on and all of a sudden it starts working, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like with anything, it takes time. So Google's a machine, right? So it's like your car takes time to heat up, your car takes time to turn on, all these sorts of things. So it's like the Google algorithm, if you've never run ads before, the algorithm needs to learn about you and your business. It needs to prove that you have like authority and that you're valid, and it takes time to get to, typically it can take 2 weeks for the algorithm to learn about you, where to place you, where to understand who your target demographic is, who's clicking on your ads, who to show your ads to. The more information that you can get in sooner, so that's kind of where the ad spend comes into it. And so sometimes an agency will say, if you can spend more money, do it, because you get more, which, you know, again, it's a double-edged sword, because you'll get more information in sooner because you kind of have a bigger sample size. You're giving the platform, hey, instead of here's $500, here's $5,000, get as much information as you can so you can learn really, really quickly. And then it will probably start to perform better and you'll start to see those results come through sooner. Obviously, the other side of that is that you're spending more money sooner, maybe sooner than you had hoped or planned. But yeah, I think that's the key thing, is knowing that initially, for the first 2 weeks, awesome if you get some results, and you will get things like you'll start to see traffic increase. You'll probably start to see some leads coming through, but before it actually really starts to take off, like the algorithm needs 2 weeks just to say like, hey, who are you? What are you here for? And should I be showcasing your business to people?
Cool. At the start of the episode, we spoke about setting realistic expectations and more so the budgeting as well, and being prepared to not lose money, but for the lead cost to be higher than it will be eventually, so you can get as much data as possible. What is a realistic expectation? Let's say we're to get started. What can we expect to see? And I know there's no dollar value you can give because every business is different, but high level, what does it look like?
So I think high level, being able to understand sort of what return on investment you can afford as a business and what you're hoping for. Again, we've got e-com clients that we're getting an 8 times return for. So for every $1 we spend, we make $8, which is fantastic. But then there are more competitive industries that it might be for every $1 you spend, you make $4. Yep. So it's just about, I guess, understanding and having that literacy in the platform and the metrics that you're looking at and what you can afford, and then kind of saying, okay, well, let's set some realistic goals here. What are our like budget goals? What can we afford as a business? Okay, based on all of those all the research that we've got through, Google Planner, the trends, SEM, like all these kinds of things, we go, okay, let's start a bit smaller. That's typically what we would always recommend, is start with a smaller budget, because you can always gradually increase it. And I know I mentioned earlier is like the more you spend earlier, the quicker the data comes in, and that is true. But obviously scaling is kind of key as well, because, it's better to scale slowly than to kind of go in and throw everything at it really, really quickly. So I think, it's just having the patience and understanding it will take time to properly optimize and put your business in the best position possible, which is why, a lot of agencies will do, or even freelancers will do like a 3-month contract, because they know that there's not heaps that's going to happen for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But then kind of after that 2 week, like you will still, when I say that, you will still get leads and you will still get drive traffic and you will still see sales. But the longer that you do it for, like with SEO, the longer that you do things for, the better the platform knows about your target market and their behaviors and their traits, and it learns about it. So it learns about them. So then it will start to perform better with time as well.
And patience. So to summarize, we are going to do another episode where we'll talk a bit more about, maybe we will dive into landing pages, some of the metrics to look at.
Yes.
And some basic keyword matching. But in summary today, the goal was to just keep it high level, give everyone a really good understanding of Google Ads and how it can be good for your business, what research tools you can use for success. And the good thing about these research tools as well is they can be daunting, but there's heaps of content on YouTube which would literally step you through how to use it.
Yes.
So I'd strongly suggest doing that. And we spoke about starting small, tracking your results, and then optimizing as you're going.
Yeah.
Now, if this is something that you do want to get into and it's something you want to start doing for your business, we are going to have a link in the show notes, and you'll be able to book a discovery call with Zara, and you can pick her brain, talk about where your business is at. Is Google Ads right for you? And you'll get an honest response. So I think all of our listeners should take advantage of that free discovery call and just get some free advice. We love free advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do that analysis too. We'll look at the research and we'll find out if the platform is a viable platform for you.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Looking forward to that next episode.
Me too. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Zara.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.